All right, I think we can get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our SciNote webinar. Thank you for taking the time to join us. My name is Arun. I'm a customer success manager here at SciNote, and I'm joined by my teammate, Kelly. Kelly, do you want to say hi?
Hello, I will be here taking your questions. We'll be answering at the end. So if you would like to put your questions in the chat or at the Q&A spot at the bottom of your screen, you can do so any time during the webinar, and we will answer them at the end.
Perfect. All right, let's get started then. So hopefully everyone can see my screen that I've shared. What I have here is our SciNote overview dashboard that's opened up. So during this webinar, I will take you through the basic functions of SciNote, how to do various activities in SciNote. And of course, if you have any questions, like Kelly mentioned, drop them in the chat or Q&A section, and then we'll save some time at the end to go over your questions. All right. Okay, so as I mentioned, what we have here open is the overview dashboard. So here's kind of where you get a snapshot summary of all your activities or tasks happening in SciNote. The first tile that you see is the current tasks, which shows any tasks that have been either assigned to you or assigned to your entire team in SciNote. You can search for specific tasks if you know a particular keyword. So you can use the search bar here and enter a specific keyword that's found in the task name, and you'll be able to quickly find it. Alternatively, you can also use the filtering option here. So you can filter by the due date of a particular task, the status of a task, the project that the task is in, or even a specific experiment that the task is located in. So if you notice here, I have two filters set up, one for a project, one for the experiment, which is why it's only displaying 3 tasks. Now, if I clear my filters, it's showing all the tasks that have been assigned across the team that I'm working in. And up here, if I click Assign to Me, it will just show the tasks that have been specifically assigned to me. To the right of this, we have a calendar, which is just really a visual representation of any time you have any tasks that are due. So if you notice here, you'll see a few dates with a couple of red dots. And what that means is there was a task due on those days. So if I click on it, it will show me which task it is, and I can quickly navigate to that task. And on the bottom left here, we have our recent work section, which just shows any recent activities that have happened inside your SciNote, whether it's task related, project related, or inventory related. And also you can, once again, filter by different sections if you're looking for a particular type of activity. And to the right of that is the signature request. So this is relevant to the e-signature feature if that's something that you are using. So if you've requested a signature from someone, or if someone has requested a signature from you, those notifications will appear here. All right, before we jump into creating content, I quickly just want to point out an important part of the settings. So if you go to settings and my preferences, just make sure the time zone that is selected here is the correct time zone that you're in. This is important because everything that is done in SciNote, every action, every activity is captured in the audit trail, and everything is timestamped, and it's timestamped according to the time zone that you set here. Please make sure that's set correctly. And also down here, you will see some notification options. So by default, all the email notifications are turned off, so you don't get a ton of SciNote related emails. But if you want to switch on email notifications anytime a task is assigned to you, you can do that by coming and changing that here. Okay, so now let's actually jump into projects and creating things within SciNote. So before we start creating a project, I just want to quickly go over how your data is organized in SciNote. So each and every one of you have a dedicated SciNote instance for your organization. So inside your SciNote instance, firstly, you can have multiple teams. And to see which team you are working under, you can click this dropdown up here. So currently, out of my 5 teams, I'm in product development. And once you're in a specific team, if you navigate to projects, you will see all the projects that are being worked on in that particular team. So the team is really our first layer inside your SciNote organization. Now, inside each team, you can have multiple different projects. And inside each project, you can have multiple experiments. And inside each experiment, you can have multiple tasks. So it's pretty flexible on how you want to organize your data structure, depending on what suits your particular workflow and organizational needs. So you may also notice that I have a few folders here. Well, we've introduced the option to create folders to allow you to create additional layers in case you need to do that. Since by default, SciNote only has 3 layers of data, if you need to create additional layers to better organize your data and help organize projects amongst different teams, you can use folders. So for example, you may notice I have 2 folders here that say Team 1 and Team 2. So you can go inside Team 1, and then you can have subfolders in here. And inside each one of these folders, you can have additional folders as well before you actually create your first project. Another common use of folders is to kind of organize your completed projects. So anytime you create a project, it's going to be visible on this dashboard here. And as you create multiple projects, it may start getting cluttered. So sometimes we see users find it useful to be able to move their projects into a completed folders section. All right, so now let's go ahead and create our first project here. So to create your project, you click on New Project. It's going to ask you to give the project a name. Let's say I'm going to call this, I'll just say Vaccine Effectiveness Study. And you'll see a checkbox here that says, make this project visible to all team members. If you select this, everyone that's on your SciNote team will get access to this project. Of course, you can control what level of access you want them to have. So viewer access is just view-only access. They won't be able to make any changes, but they can come inside, view your protocols and data that you have in there. User and technician are very similar. They are one step above view-only access. They can actually add data, edit any of the data in there, but they can't control permissions and they can't add other people to the project. And owner is the highest level of access. So the person that creates the project by default gets owner level access. And if you give anyone else owner level access, they would have the same level of access as you, the project creator. They will be able to add additional people to the project. They will be able to change permissions of different users in the project. And of course, they can remove the project if they want to. So I will leave this unchecked for now because I would like to show you how to individually add users to your project. So now we have the project created. So if you click the 3 dots here, you will see an option that says Project Members Access. And if you click that, it will open up a pop-up that shows all the users that have access to your project. Currently, it's just me, the project creator. And now if I want to individually grant access to users on my team, I click Grant New Access. And for some reason, it's not displaying anyone on my team. And that may be because there is no one else on my team. So let's go take a look at that. So if I go to settings, I go to teams, I'll find my team here that I'm working inside. Oh, sorry, wrong team. It's only me. So try to add one of my other accounts and grant this account access. Okay, so now if I jump back to my project, come back to project member access and click grant new access. So here you will see a list of everyone that's on your team. The reason it was empty before was because my other account was not added to this team, but now that it's been added, you can see it here. So I will select. And as you select each individual user, you can toggle what level of access you want them to have. So I'll give this user level access. And if I had another person, I would add them and I could give them either user, owner, technician, or viewer access. So click grant access to one user. And so now you'll see that there's 2 people that have access to this project. And of course, at any point in time, you can come back and remove someone else from your project that you've added. And you can also change their role at any point if you'd like to. Okay, so now we've created a project. So let's go into the next layer of data, which is the experiment. So I've opened my project. And as I mentioned earlier, we can create multiple experiments within a single project. So let's go ahead and do that. So to do that, I will click New Experiment. And since we called this project Vaccine Effectiveness, I will have an experiment for each different vaccine. So I'll say, for example, I'll have one study for Moderna, one study for Pfizer BioNTech, and one study for, let's say, J&J. All right, so now we have inside our vaccine effectiveness study project, we've created 3 different experiments. So now we're going to go into one of these experiments and create individual tasks because the protocols are actually added at the task level. So I'll start with Moderna. So what you see here is the task canvas, and it's blank because we haven't added any tasks. And in order to add a task, we will click on Edit Experiment here. And when you click it, you will notice the task canvas gets slightly bigger. And there's a new task button up here on the top left. And I will click and drag that onto my canvas. And so that's how you add your task or a new task to your experiment. So for task name, let's say I'll call this effectiveness in adults, for example. And then I'll add a second task. Of course, you can have as many tasks as you want. And the other thing you can do with tasks is you can actually build a workflow. So what do I mean by workflow? So let's say I'll add another task down here. So the first task I created in this example was to test the effectiveness of this vaccine in adults. And let's say in this particular workflow, that was the first task. And the second task is to check so let's say I'm taking a subgroup of 18 to 40. To link these 2 tasks, I would click here and drag the arrow down here. And then if I had a third task down here, let's call it task 3, I could connect this as well. So now we have a workflow of tasks, and whenever the user that's going to be executing these tasks comes into SciNote, they'll be able to see the workflow that you've built, and they'll know that these tasks need to be performed in a particular sequence. Of course, it's not mandatory to connect tasks. You can have all the tasks as standalone tasks if you want to. And once you've created a workflow, if you want to remove the workflow, you just click on the X here, and that'll remove any links that have been built between tasks. And let's say you've added a task by mistake, or you realize that you don't need a particular task and you need to remove it. If you click on the drop down here, you will see an option to archive task. And if you click that, the task will be archived. Of course, you have to be in the editing mode to do all these functions. So make sure you're in the editing mode, and you'll know that by the new task up here and the save buttons over here. I'm just going to go ahead and create a fourth task over here and call it and for this example, I'll go ahead and connect these in two separate workflows. All right, so now that I've added my tasks to my canvas, please make sure to click save, because if I click anywhere else on my screen, or if I refresh this page, any of the tasks that I've added here will not be saved, and you will come back to a blank canvas. Please make sure you remember to click save. And you'll notice the screen slightly change. And so now we have our 4 tasks here. And in each task card, you can just see a snapshot of information such as the due date, the status of the task. And if you click here, you can see any comments, or you can even add a comment. And if you click on the person icon, you'll see who it's been assigned to, which is me by default, since I created the task. And these bullet icons here are the activity history. So if you click that, it will show any activities that have been performed in this task. Since we haven't performed any activities inside the task itself, I'm not going to show that just yet. But let's go ahead and jump into this specific task and start adding content to our protocol. All right, so now we're in the protocol section of the task, and you can see that up here, it says protocol. And the first dropdown is details. You can add a start date if you want to. It's not mandatory. You can leave it blank. Same thing with due date. You can add a due date if you want to, or leave it blank. I will go ahead and give us a due date of tomorrow. You can also pick a time, a specific time on that date if you need to. And then we have the assigned to. So as I mentioned earlier, by default, the task gets assigned to whoever created it, which is me. But if I want to reassign it, if I click on the assigned to bar here, it will display all the other users that have been added to my project. And since I added my other account to this project, I will assign it to that user. And I can remove myself if I want to, or I can leave myself on there if I want to. And then we have tags. I will come back to tags once we've added some content, so we'll skip over that for now. And then we have notes. Again, another optional section. If you just want to add any notes specific to this protocol, you can include those here, or you can leave it blank. Next, we have the assigned items. So this allows you to assign specific items from any inventories that you've created. Since we haven't created any inventories just yet, I will skip this and come back to it once we've created an inventory. So now we jump into the actual protocol content. So we start by giving the protocol a name. I'll just call this save the name. And then there is a section here for protocol description. Once again, it's optional. You don't have to add anything in there. But let's go ahead and start adding our protocol steps. So I click the new step button here, and it gives us our first step, and give the step a name. Call this step 1, save the name. And to the right of the step name, you'll see a dropdown for insert. And if I click this dropdown, you'll notice that there's 4 types of content formats that you can add to a protocol step. So you can add a table, a checklist, actual text, or you could even attach a file if you need to. We'll start with the text since it's the most straightforward. And so it opens up a text editor. And in the text editor, you can just go ahead and type out your actual protocol steps. So for example, let's say, and with the text that you add, you do have the same formatting options that you would find in Microsoft Word. So you can align the text, indent them, add bullet points or numbers if you need to. And the other cool thing that you can do is you can actually embed images inside the text editor. So for example, if you wanted to have a few steps of instructions and then have an image that the user can refer to while performing those steps, you can embed an image. And the way to do that is you can either click the choose an image button here or come to insert and click choose an image here. And it will open up a folder window from your desktop. And I will pick one of these images here. Click open. And you'll notice the image has been added. And you can format the image a little bit. You can resize it. You can change its positioning if you need to. And of course, after you have the image, you can continue to add more content in the same text editor. And once you've added your content for the first step, go ahead and click save. So that'll save our first step here. And let's create a new step, call it step 2. And now let's go ahead and add a table. So once again, insert and then select your content type, in this case, table. So by default, the table is a 5x5 table, but if you need to add more rows or columns, you can do it by right-clicking and then saying insert row or insert column. And of course, you can remove rows or columns if you need to. The SciNote tables are kind of similar to the Excel tables. You can add your data or content in here. And you can perform very basic math functions like addition, subtraction, division, or multiplication. But anything more complex than that, especially if you're using formulas and you want to have graphs in there, I would recommend using our Microsoft Office integration. And we will explore that next. So I've added my table. Always make sure you click the check icon to save it. So in the same step, I will go ahead and add a Excel spreadsheet. And the way to do that is click Insert once again, then click Add File. And you will see a pop-up here that says you can upload a file from your computer or create a new Microsoft Office file. So if you already have an Excel file, a Word file, a PowerPoint file that you want to upload and continue working on, you can click Upload. find the file and upload it. Or if you just want to create a new one, click Create. And here you can pick one of the three types, either Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. Give it a name. I'll pick Excel since we were talking about tables. And once it's done loading, it should open up a new tab here. And so it will create a new spreadsheet in Microsoft Excel Online. And once it's done loading, you can add your content here. And of course, you get the same Excel functionality that you would find in Microsoft Excel. So any formulas, graphs, charts, this integration would be very helpful for that. And of course, once you make any changes in this particular spreadsheet, it saves automatically. So if I close this and come down here, you will find the Excel document that I created is attached to this step. So let's say I create this particular Excel document today, and I'm working on this protocol with Kelly. And tomorrow, Kelly can come in. She can open this, click Edit in Excel for Web, and continue working on wherever I left off. And whatever changes she makes will be saved to this document. So that way, when I come back in after her and open this document, I can see whatever data or content that she's added to it. Okay, so I'll add a new step, and we will check out the last content format here, which is the checklist. So once again, insert and then checklist. You can rename the checklist if you want. Let's say, for example, you have a pre-experiment checklist. I'm actually going to go ahead and change the name of my step as well. And to add items to your checklist, you just click Add a new checklist item. Say check sample naming. So after you've entered a checklist item, you can either click the check icon here to save it, or you can just hit Tab on your keyboard, and it will save that item and open up the next checklist for you to add. Once again, if I hit Tab, it will save and allow me to add the next item. All right, so we've added 3 steps here. The first one was a text content with images embedded in it. And then we had a table using native SciNote tables, as well as attaching a Microsoft Excel document. And then we did create a pre-experiment checklist using the checklists. And actually, one more content type I would like to explore is adding images as attachments rather than embedding them in the text. So in this first step, we embedded the image in the text editor. But if we want, we can also attach an image. So I would click on Insert, Add File, click Upload, and then find the image file, click Open. And now the image gets attached as an attachment rather than being embedded in the text editor. And the advantage to this is we actually have an inbuilt image editing tool in SciNote. So if you attach an image to a step and you click on the 3 dots, you will see an option that says Edit in SciNote. And this opens the image editing tool that we have inside SciNote. And this could be useful if you want to kind of highlight specific areas in an image. You can also add text to the image. You can crop the image, kind of toggle the basic color, brightness, brightness functions as well. And once you're done, if you hit save and close, these changes will be saved to the image. And of course, you can also download the image that has the edits in it. So just to recap on this specific step, if you want to use the image editing tool inside SciNote, you have to add the image as an attachment. If you embed it in the text editor, you won't be able to use the image editing tool. And yeah, so just to recap the different content types, we had a text editor with text and an image embedded in it. We attached an image file to a step. We created tables inside of SciNote. We also attached an Excel document using the Microsoft Office integration. And then we created a pre-experiment checklist. We kind of created the pre-experiment checklist at the end, which doesn't really make sense since it says pre-experiment. So that's not a problem. You can actually reorder the steps in your protocol. And the way to do that is to click, if you hover over the name of the step, you'll see this up-down arrows here. If you click that, it opens up this window to rearrange the steps. And if I hover over the step, the hand icon appears. So I click and drag it to the top. And if I close this, you'll now see that my pre-experiment checklist has actually become the first step. All right, so this is everything in the protocol section. So up here, you will see there is a section for results as well. So if I click that, it's going to be blank since we haven't added anything in here. And the way you add data or content to your results is very similar to what we just did. You click this drop down here, and you'll find that you have the same content formats that you can add here. So we have text, which will open up the text editor. There's tables where you can create tables and add your data in there. You can attach files. So let's say you have an output from a particular instrument that you're using, and the file type is like a proprietary file type that only works with a certain type of software. It doesn't matter, you can attach the file to SciNote. You just won't be able to open it in SciNote, so you'll have to download it and open it with whatever software it's compatible with. And of course, we have the Microsoft Office option here as well. All right, so now that we've created the protocol, let's go ahead. Oh, I wanted to discuss the tags as well. So the tags. So tags work the same way as hashtags do on the internet. So I can create a specific keyword and tag this particular task with that keyword. And once I've tagged a set of tasks with a specific keyword, in the future, I can go back and search for that specific keyword and filter by tags. And when I do that, it will return all the tasks that have been tagged with that specific keyword. So for example, let's say this particular protocol here failed. So if I create a tag called failed, and tag this particular protocol with that. And at the end, I will show you how the search function works. But for now, let's jump to inventories. Okay, so here it's displaying a list of inventories that I've already created, but let's go ahead and create a new one. So I click add new inventory. I'll give it a name. Okay, so we have a blank inventory, and you'll notice there's a few columns already pre-created. If you'd like to add additional columns or hide some of these columns, you can. And to toggle any of the column settings, you want to click on Manage Columns up here. So let's say I want to hide the added by column. If you click on this eye icon here, it will hide that column. And to add new columns, click add column down here. So first, it's going to ask you to give the column a name. So let's say we're going to track expiration date. And then you want to select a column type. So there's different column types here. Text is text column type. You can enter any text. You can paste URLs to links somewhere else. If you, let's say you have a Google spreadsheet where you're tracking some sort of data in there and you want to link that spreadsheet to an inventory item, you can paste the link to that spreadsheet in a text column type. Number is very similar to text, except you can only add numbers. File, you can upload actual files and attach it to an inventory item. Dropdown, checklist, and status allows you to create certain keywords and then select them either from a dropdown, a status, or a checklist. Stock is to take advantage of our stock management feature. And then we have date and time, date, or just time. Since we're doing expiration date up here, I will select date. And if you select any one of the date and date or time column types, you can actually create reminders. And since we're tracking expiration date, it does make sense to create a reminder. So I will do that. And I'll say, remind me, let's say 2 days before the expiration date that I set. And then you click Save Column. And let's do a couple other column types. We'll do another one for safety information. And for this, I will select column type as File. And I will show you why shortly. And then I also want to track my stock. So I will select column type stock. By default, you will see a few units available here. If there's a unit that's not available here that you'd like to use, just click in the window here, hit enter. You can add other units here as well. And then click save. Okay, and then I'm going to close this window here. So now you'll see we have the columns that we added, which are expiration date, safety information, and stock. So let's start adding some items. So click on new item, give the item a name, and then we'll assign it an expiration date. Say it expires tomorrow. And for the safety information, if you remember, I selected the column type as file. And so that allows me to upload a file for this particular item. And since it's safety information, I think I have a safety data sheet that I can attach. Yep, I do. So now that PDF has been attached to this particular item. And then I click save. You can't add or you can't set the stock until you actually add the item. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a second item here. I'll leave the attachment blank. Okay, so first thing you'll notice here is the expiration date. One of them has a little red dot, the other didn't. That's because this one we created. In this column, we set a reminder for 2 days within the expiration date, and this expires tomorrow, which is why we have an alert here, as well as an alert here. And if I click the bell alert here, it will tell me that this item is expiring in 1 day. And for this one, since it's outside of the range, there are no alerts. And now we can set our starting stock. So you just click set stock, add an amount. And then you can also create a low stock reminder. So I'll say, remind me when I'm down to 100 microliters left. And same for this one. Okay, so now that we've added some items to our inventory, let's jump back into our task where we have the protocol and actually assign these items to that particular protocol. Okay, so to assign items from your inventory, you want to be in this assigned items section, and you'll notice there's a drop down here. And when I click that, it will display all the inventories that I've created, but I want to select items relevant to this particular study. And so I will select the inventory that we just created right now. It will open a new page, display all the items in your inventory, and it will also display any alerts. So we have the expiration date alert that we saw earlier. So before you actually select an item, it will alert you that this item is close to expiration, or if it's past the expiration date, it will tell you that it's expired before you actually assign it to this protocol and use it. So I'll select both these items, click Assign to Task, confirm this. And once it's added, we can close this window. And so here you'll see under assigned items, it will display the inventory name as well as the items from that inventory that we've assigned to this particular protocol. Since we did set the stock, we can consume a certain amount in this particular protocol. So to consume, I'll click consume. And let's say in this protocol, we used 450 microliters of buffer A. And for buffer B, let's say we just used 50. Okay, so right away you'll notice that the stock also changed. We consumed 450, so now we have 50 left. And for buffer B, we consumed 50, so we have 450 left. And since we set our low stock reminder to trigger at anything less than 100 microliters, you can see the warning icon here. And also, if I click the bell alert, in addition to the reminder that the item is expiring, I also have a item running low alert here. And if we go back to our inventory, and open the inventory we just created, you'll see that here, once again, the same alerts have appeared. The low stock reminder and the expiration date reminder. One other thing I'd like to point out here is you'll notice under the assigned column, this now says 1. So what that means is this item has been assigned to one task inside SciNote. And if I click that number, it will tell me exactly which task inside which experiment and which project this item has been assigned. And of course, if I click this, I can quickly jump to that specific task. All right, so now I want to take a step back and go to our project and then our experiment. So we created, for this hypothetical vaccine effectiveness study, we created 3 different experiments for 3 different vaccines. And we only created tasks for this one under Moderna. But let's say we're going to be performing these 4 protocols for all 3 vaccine types. Instead of having to go inside each experiment and creating the task again and again, what I can do is once I've created it in one experiment, if I click actions, I can duplicate as template. and I can select which project I want to duplicate this into. So I'll keep it. If I click this, you'll see all the projects available to me, but I'm going to keep it inside the current project that we created and click duplicate. And so now if I go back to experiments, you'll see that this is the one that we created, Moderna, and we have 4 tasks in there. And this is the one that we just duplicated. Of course, the name says clone1-Moderna, but if I click the 3 dots and click edit, I can change this. But first, let's say I'm going to get rid of this particular experiment because we don't need it. So I select, click archive, and then I will change this one. So that way you can save a lot of time by just building out your series of tasks just once and then duplicating it as a template how many ever times you need it. So now if I go into the J&J one, which we just duplicated, it will include all the content in the protocol. So I'm opening this task, and you'll notice the steps that we added earlier have also been copied. Of course, it's not going to copy any inventory items that have been assigned, so you'll have to reassign that. And also, it's not going to copy any results that you've added in the previous task. And the last thing I want to go over is the search function. So SciNote's global search function is located up here. And let's start by searching for a keyword. And since I created the tag failed, I'm going to search for that keyword. And you'll notice when the search results are returned, the results are categorized based on where that keyword is found. So I searched for the keyword failed, and it's telling me that there are no projects with the name or with the keyword failed in the name. Same thing with folders, experiments, tasks, or results. But under tags, you'll notice there's 10, and under comments, there's 2. So if I click tags, it will display all the results that have a tag with the keyword failed. And you'll notice this is the one that we just created. It's inside this project, vaccine effectiveness study. It's inside the experiment Moderna, and inside the task effectiveness in adults. You'll notice there's a few other results here. These are previous keywords that I've created and tagged with the keyword failed. And also if I open comments, there are probably comments that I've created in the past. Yep, so in one of my other experiments, I added a comment that said, please review data, experiment failed. And so it's telling me that this keyword is found in comments as well. One more really powerful thing with the search function is it can actually search inside of documents. So if you attached a Word document or a PDF and you search for a keyword inside that particular document, SciNote can read inside the document and find that keyword as well. And those results would be displayed under the Files section here. And I think that's everything I wanted to go over today. And I will hand it over to Kelly now to go over any questions that were asked.
Thank you so much, Arun, for going over that. We do have a few questions here. I'm going to start off with the first one that we got that says, are inventory item numbers unique in the complete environment? For example, the whole organization, independently of which inventories they belong to or which team owns/creates them. This is especially important if an inventory is shared between the teams, not to have redundant item numbers. Luckily for you, I forgot to put my thing down. Inventory items are done throughout the whole organization. So if I were to create an inventory item in my team, and then Arun was to create one in his team, the numbers would bounce back and forth. So you wouldn't have the repetition of numbers within your instance. Yep, so right here it says IT 53644. And if I were to now go add one in my account, it would start off with IT 53646. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. You something to add there, Arun?
Sorry, Kelly, what did you say?
I said, I didn't know I thought you were going to add something there.
Oh, no. I think
Okay.
that covered it. The inventory item IDs are unique for each new item that's added.
Correct. All right, so our next question here is, how do the changes added into the integrated Excel file appear in audit trails? User edit file question. Does the changes themselves, but the changes themselves are not really traced in any way. So I believe what they're asking here is that if you make an edit in your Excel file, does it appear, in the audit trail? If we go into your audit trail, I believe it just says that there was an edit to the file.
Yep, that's correct.
It does not say what the edit is. It just says that there was changes made. I don't know the exact wording, but it will not tell you the detail in which it would. That's why we also have the option for the table inside SciNote that does basic Excel functions.
Yep. So if you notice here, I've opened the audit trail, and if I click expand, it will just tell me that this file was created. It won't tell me what changes were made inside that particular file, because the Excel or the Microsoft Office integration is a third-party integration. So those changes would be logged inside Excel itself, not in SciNote. But anything inside SciNote itself that you input, those are all captured in the audit trail.
All right. Another question here I have is, if I decide to add all members to the project in the future, do I have to add them all individually, or is there a button to add them all at once like you do when you create the project?
Great question. So at the point of creating a project, you do have this option, but let's say you choose not to select this checkbox, but then later down the road, you realize everyone needs access to this particular project, and you don't want to individually select each user. You can click the three dots, and then if you click edit, you will notice the same pop-up that appears when you click new project will pop back up, and then you can go ahead, check this, and then it will give everyone in your team access. And of course, you can rename or edit the name of the project if you need to.
All right. And the last question here is, other than visually, is there any benefits to linking tasks? So when you link tasks, like you said, visually is a benefit, but also when you are assigning inventory items. If you are to assign an inventory item, you can assign it just to the task, or you can assign it to a task in downstream. What that means is any tasks that are connected to each other, that inventory item will be automatically assigned to the tasks connected.
Yep, that is correct. And I can quickly demonstrate this. So there's these two tasks that are connected. So if I open this task here, there's no items assigned. And I will assign it from the inventory that we just created. Let's say I select both these items. There's two options here, assign to task or assign to task and downstream. If I click assign to task, it will just assign it to this specific task. But if I click assign to task and downstream, it will tell me it's going to assign it to two items, which is the current task that we're on, and also the task linked to this one, which is the effectiveness in children aged 0 to 10. And so now if I close this and go back and open the task linked to the previous task, the items will already be assigned here.
All right,
Would
those
any-
are the only questions that we have.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you everyone for taking the time to attend this webinar. It is recorded, and we'll be sharing a recording of the webinar shortly. Of course, if you have any specific questions or if you're running into any issues, you can reach out to your dedicated customer success manager, or you can email us at premiumsupport@scinote.net, and someone from our team will get back to you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That was good.